Good morning. This is this is the Ancient Texan on Monday, January 13th. I just listened to part of a talk from Elon Musk about the Palestinians and about the Israelis. He made some good points, and I don't fundamentally disagree with anything he said, but I think he left out some really important parts. His his talk basically said, that you can't allow genocide to go on, and the Israelis have to, you know, the number of people they kill needs to be controlled or limited, and that the same would apply for, Hamas killing people. And he talked about how children are taught, the Palestinians are taught early on to hate. And that might be also true of the Israeli children, some of them. Um, they become radicalized, and that grows into Hamas and the violence. And he was making the points that if we help Gaza to prosper, there would be peace. And if they grew up in a more affluent space, economy, had opportunities, they would be less prone for violence. And that's probably true. But there's one ingredient I think that's missing, and that's human rights. I think Palestinian kids need to grow up with basic human rights, the right to free speech, the right and opportunity to pursue happiness, the right to own property, the right to get justice in court, um, equal rights with those that they live with, which are the Israelis. And that's clearly not the case. Palestinians don't have the same rights as Israelis, either by being part of the Israeli system or being their own government and their own sovereign nation. They're prisoners that, at best, if well taken care of, are not, I don't know if you could quite call them slaves to the Israelis, but their lives are certainly controlled by the Israelis, where they can go, what opportunities they have, where they can live. Um, there's nothing guaranteeing them a set of rights equal to the Israelis. There's a two-tier system there, kind of like segregation in the U.S. Equal but separate's just kind of an oxymoron. Same thing with Palestinian and Israeli. They're not the same thing. You might as well be calling that black and white. So, in the immediate, we can clean up the mess and put everything back together. But until we address the problem or the challenge to give Palestinians equal rights to the Israelis, or at least equal rights compared to the people they live with, I just don't know how it works. I think that's a fundamental lack, that they're a second-class citizen, and the fact that they're kept segregated from the main Israeli society. I don't know, kind of sounds like apartheid, segregation in the U.S. It doesn't sound like it's a foundation for a wonderful, happy world, does it? I mean, am I missing something here? And the one that decides that ultimately is the United States. We supply Israeli with weapons and money, and we control the purse strings. So we're the ones that's decided that Palestinians don't have equal rights. Israelis are just little Satan executing big Satan's desires. Although I would throw in there's plenty of room for different devils and Satans in this whole scenario. Anyway, I'd like to put my little 2 cents in there that any formula for peace in the Middle East has to, at some level, deal with the fact that Palestinians have basic human rights. If you want them to be part of the system and not, periodically having a revolt, not building up radical thoughts and hate. Anyway, I'm hoping someday we treat the Palestinians as people, and that someday we care, because the basic thing is we don't really care. We give lip service whenever they're getting bombed, that we care. But the world really doesn't care about the Palestinians. It's I don't think it's cruel or inhumane to just state the obvious. We don't really care what happens to the Palestinians. Not as a nation, as a policy, as a culture. We kind of have what some people would call bleeding hearts, that we're worrying about Palestinians dying, and I actually think we should be. I think we should be caring about the rights they have. And I think we picked this crisis in the world to care about because we know that we, as Americans, ultimately control what goes on in Israel. So we have a right to feel guilty, but does any significant number of people care about the Palestinians? I would say no. You don't see Elon, when he's talking about caring about the Palestinians, flying over to Israel and setting up entrepreneur zones or something and helping fund Palestinian businesses, do you? He doesn't care that much. He's going to spend money on Trump, who helps him make more money. He's not going to spend money on Palestinians. He doesn't care about Palestinians, except in the abstract, it's the right thing to do as a human. You can see what Elon cares about, where he spends his money. And I'm not just picking on Elon. I think that's the whole U.S. system. Wealth inequality exists because the rich people take care of themselves and their interest. There's nobody trying to change the laws about wealth inequality. Like a CEO can't get more than 100 times than his lowest cost worker. That would be a foolish law. Rich people aren't going to let that kind of nonsense happen. They're not going to raise Elon's going to complain about the U.S. going broke, but he's not going to raise the tax rate on Elon. And that's the same for all the rich dudes. None of them are going to raise the tax rate on rich people. That's just not going to happen. Maybe Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's one of the few people that said he shouldn't pay a lower percentage rate than his secretary. But Warren Buffett's a big exception. The rule is rich people are taking care of rich people, not us or the Palestinians. They really don't care. Anyway, that's the ancient Texan. with my 2 cents worth. Not that a lot of people are going to care or listen, but it makes me feel a little better saying it. Have a nice day, and a good life, and don't get upset thinking about those Palestinians.